Hi Internet. There isn't an easy way to talk about this. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. So, let's talk about 9/11. What can I say that hasn't already been said? 9/11 changed everything, leading to an aftermath that many still feel to this very day. It has also been an inspiration to tell stories. Some political, some cynical, some heartwarming, and some manipulating. Which brings us to today's book, and determining what camp it falls into. Sit back, relax, as we explore Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer.
He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Doesn't have a point of view. No.
A great game that Dan and I would sometimes play on Sundays was Reconnaissance Expedition. Sometimes the reconnaissance expeditions were extremely simple, like when he told me to bring back something from every decade in the 20th century. I was clever and brought back a rock. And sometimes they were incredibly complicated and would go on for a couple of weeks. For the last one we ever did, which never finished, he gave me a map of Central Park. I said, "And?" And he said, "And what?" I said, "What are the clues?" He said, "Who said there had to be clues? There are always clues. That doesn't in itself suggest anything." "Not a single clue," he said. "Unless no clue is a clue. Is no clue a clue?" He shrugged his shoulders, like he had no idea what I was talking about. I love that. That is the mind of our protagonist, 9-year-old Oscar Shaw, and he is facing the worst time of his life. His dad was one of the many victims of the 9/11 attacks, and being a 9-year-old makes the grieving process hard. One day, while looking through his dad's closet, he comes across a blue vase and accidentally breaks it. Among the shards, he finds an envelope with the word "black" on the back and a key inside. Thinking back to the days when he would play reconnaissance expedition with his dad, he learns that black is a name and begins a hunt all over New York to find a lock that may be the last thing his father has left behind. So, is this a heartwarming tale of a youth dealing with death? Or is it pandering to the post-9/11 audience? Well, to start that, we would need to focus on the three main characters. Oscar Shaw, Oscar's grandfather, Thomas Shaw Sr., and Oscar's grandmother, whose name I think we are never told. Oscar is really smart for a 9-year-old, always coming up with crazy inventions within a single day. He also looks up to his father, whether it's the reconnaissance expeditions, finding mistakes in the New Yorker, or the bedtime stories he tells him, like the Sixth Borough of New York, which makes the loss of him shatter Oscar's world. One of the things I've noticed when people talk about Oscar is how he is almost like Holden Caulfield. To some point, I can see where people would notice a similarity. Both are dealing with troubling issues, and both go around New York. The big difference is Oscar has a goal, even if in the grand scheme it's pointless. His grandfather and grandmother, while part of the main story, actually tell a completely different one about their failed relationship. Both are survivors of the Dresden bombings during World War II, which acts as an allegory about how history repeats itself. Dresden was seen for the most part as a senseless attack that killed somewhere around 22,000 to 25,000 people. The event has caused serious issues with the two. The grandfather has completely lost his voice, only having the words yes and no tattooed on his hands to simply communicate. Meanwhile, the grandmother suffers from survivor's guilt. It's sad when they try to fall in love with each other, but neither can do what is necessary to make the commitment, making you feel sorry for them and annoyed sometimes. So, we have a child main character, a tragic event, and a quest that gives the writer room to explore the events across New York. How does it do? Hit and miss. There are moments in the book that are really heart-shattering. They drive home the message of the book about dealing with loss, history repeating itself, and the process we all deal with to move on. It also has moments that really drag. It doesn't help that the 9-year-old kid sounds a little like an adult either. Which to many has brought up the question if Oscar is autistic. To put it simply, the book doesn't say anything. At best, it's subtext, and even the author has stated it's up to the audience's interpretation. On the other hand, you have a smart kid who doesn't hang with others and doesn't always understand social interactions. You could say the last one is, he's a kid, he doesn't know better. But it does bring out the biggest point of the book. Oscar's narration. Remember how I said people have compared Oscar to Holden? Well, they carry a very similar style with each other. Instead of the word phony being thrown around, we have heavy boots to describe whenever Oscar is really sad. There are also moments that Oscar rants about how he's feeling the true feelings of loss, while everyone else is hiding, or dare say, moving on. It's also why some people hate Oscar as much as I hate Holden. I don't quite agree on that point, because of one simple thing. Oscar grows. In Catcher, we just have Caulfield do nothing, and by the end, never learning anything. While with Oscar, there are signs of change, especially when he finds out his quest is pointless. Okay, I know I haven't been hiding it, but the quest for the lock is a MacGuffin. It's not a spoiler because you know throughout that it's not the true meaning of the book. Which leads to my final point. This is a journey book. It's not about what the key goes into, but how Oscar learns about moving on. As for the 9/11 aspects, it's really at most background. I know it sounds harsh, but the father's death could have happened in any tragic event, and it wouldn't have changed the main focus of the book. Jonathan is a New Yorker. He states that he thinks it's risky to avoid what's right in front of you, and wanted to write about how the events of 9/11 affected him. Again, it will be hit or miss with you guys, depending on what you feel about the story. Overall, it does have its heart in the right place, but the execution throws some people into a loop. Alright, verdict time. For the genre review, I give its fiction a 5 out of 10. Just go back to my previous statement about why. For my personal review, I give it a 6 out of 10. I'm willing to overlook the flaws because I feel the book has its heart in the right place. Lastly, the overall review. I give Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close a 4 out of 10. I really didn't want to give it a score this low, but when I really look at the book more objectively, it does stumble on the overall point it wants to make, putting it below average. Give it a rent and see what I mean. You can find the book at any retailer or your local library. Okay, I've done 2 fairly depressing books. Next week's book better be happy, or this is going to be good.